January 24th, 2006. Orlando, Florida, Tuesday morning. The kind of morning that starts like every other morning: alarm clocks, coffee makers, rush hour traffic on I-4, the hum of the city, waking up and going to work. For most people in Orlando that day, January 24th was just another Tuesday. For one family, it was the day their world stopped. Her name was Jennifer Joyce Kesse. She was 24 years old, and she was everything you'd want in a daughter, a friend, a coworker, a neighbor. She was the kind of person who called her parents back, not eventually, not when she had time, every single day, without fail. She was the kind of person who locked her doors at night, who made plans and kept them, who let people know where she was going and when she expected to be back. She was responsible in a way that went far beyond her years. She was cautious, she was smart, and she still disappeared. That is the part that haunts people most about this story. Jennifer Kesse didn't vanish from a reckless life. She wasn't in a dangerous situation. She wasn't somewhere she shouldn't have been. She was home. She was safe. She was about to go to work. And then she was gone. No explanation, no goodbye, no trace, just gone. To understand what happened to Jennifer Kesse and why it matters so deeply, you first have to understand who Jennifer Kesse was. Because so often in true crime, we hear about victims only in relation to the crime itself. We get snippets, fragments, summaries, a name and an age and a headline. But Jennifer was not a headline. She was a full human being. And if we're going to search for the truth of what happened to her, we owe it to her and to her family to start there. So, who was Jennifer Kesse? Jennifer was born on April 10th, 1981, to Drew and Joyce Kesse. She grew up in Palm Beach County, Florida, the older of two children. Her brother Logan would later become one of her most fierce advocates, but more on that later. By all accounts, Jennifer was the kid who had things figured out before most people even figured out what they were trying to figure out. She was driven from a young age, not in a pushy or aggressive way, but in a steady, certain way. Like she had a destination in mind, and she was walking toward it every single day. She graduated from the University of Central Florida with a degree in finance and management. She was sharp with numbers. She was sharp with people. She knew how to read a room and how to get things done. After college, she landed a position at Centex Homes, a home building company where she worked as a finance manager. She was good at her job. Her coworkers respected her. Her supervisors trusted her. She was, by every definition of the word, someone on the rise. And then there was the condo. For a lot of people, owning their own home at 24 seems like a distant dream, something for later, for when life has sorted itself out. But Jennifer didn't wait for later. She bought a condo on Conroy Road in Orlando, Florida. It was hers. She picked it out, she signed the papers, she moved in her furniture and hung her pictures and made it her space. To her parents, that condo represented everything they'd raised her to be: independent, capable, proud. To Jennifer, it probably just felt like home. She had a boyfriend, a serious one. His name was Rob Allen. They'd been together for about 1.5 years, and by all accounts, it was a healthy, loving relationship. Rob was smitten with her. Her friends and family liked him. The relationship was good. She had a tight group of friends. She had coworkers she actually enjoyed spending time with. She had parents she talked to, truly talked to, every single day. Jennifer Kesse was not isolated. She was not struggling. She was not invisible. She was surrounded. She was loved. And that is precisely why what happened next is so deeply, profoundly unsettling. The week before Jennifer disappeared, she was living exactly the kind of life she'd built for herself. She had just returned from a vacation in St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. She and Rob Allen had spent several days there, sun, beach, time together. It was exactly the kind of trip you take when life is good and you have something to celebrate. By all accounts, she had a wonderful time. She came home tanned and rested and ready to dive back into her routine. Monday, January 23rd, 2006. The day before she disappeared, Jennifer went to work. She put in a full day. She dealt with the usual stack of responsibilities that comes with managing finances for a major home building company. After work, she came home to her condo on Conroy Road. She settled in for the evening. And then she did something she did nearly every single night. She called her parents. The conversation with Joyce and Drew Kesse that Monday night was, by all accounts, completely normal. Jennifer wasn't distressed. She wasn't worried about anything. She didn't mention feeling like she was being watched or followed. She was just their daughter, checking in, the way she always did. She also spoke to Rob that evening. Same thing. Normal, happy, tired from work, but fine. Planning to get a good night's sleep and be back at the office in the morning. She had plans. She had routines. She had a whole week ahead of her. Before bed, Jennifer did what many of us do without thinking about it. She ran the dishwasher. She got ready for the next day. She laid out her work clothes. She showered. These are the details that investigators would later find inside her condo. The dishwasher cycle completed. The clothes laid out. The shower recently used. These are the details that tell us Jennifer Kesse went to bed that Monday night, fully expecting to wake up on Tuesday morning. Fully expecting another day. She never got it. January 24th, 2006. Tuesday. Jennifer had a scheduled meeting at work that morning. She was expected in the office by the time her colleagues arrived, but she didn't come in. At first, no one panicked. People run late. People get stuck in traffic. People occasionally oversleep. Her coworkers gave her time. But as the morning stretched on and her phone went unanswered, call after call, straight to voicemail, the worry began to build. Jennifer's supervisor contacted her family. That was the moment the clock started. Drew Kesse made the drive to Jennifer's condo on Conroy Road. He needed to see for himself. What he found, or rather what he did not find, made his blood run cold. Jennifer's car was gone. A 2004 green Chevrolet Malibu. Gone. Her condo was locked. When investigators eventually got inside, here is what they found. The dishwasher, finished. The clothes she had planned to wear to work, laid out on her bed, ready. The shower, wet, recently used. Every single sign pointed to a woman who had woken up that Tuesday morning, gotten ready, and prepared to leave for work. But she never made it out of her own neighborhood. Or, and this is the detail that investigators would turn over and over, she made it to her car. She started to leave, and something happened between her front door and wherever she was going. Jennifer was reported missing on January 24th, 2006. Because she was an adult with no prior history of running away or instability, the initial response was measured. Standard protocol, file a report, wait and see. But Drew and Joyce Kesse were not waiting and seeing. They knew their daughter. They knew this was wrong. Parents know. And these parents were right. 2 days after Jennifer was reported missing, her green Chevrolet Malibu was found. It was parked in a parking lot less than a mile from her condo, at a condominium complex on Mosaic Drive. A mile. That is all the distance between where Jennifer's life ended and where her car was abandoned. Less than a mile. The car had not been in an accident. It wasn't damaged. It wasn't ransacked. It was just parked, carefully, as if someone had simply walked away from it, which is exactly what someone had done. And here, right here, is where this case became something investigators had never quite seen before. Because a neighboring condominium complex had a security camera, and that security camera had captured footage from the Mosaic Drive parking lot on the morning of January 24th, 2006. The footage was grainy. The resolution was poor. The kind of low-quality surveillance video that was common in 2006 before HD cameras became standard. But it captured something. It captured someone. In the footage, a figure parks Jennifer's car, gets out, and walks away. The video is brief, seconds of footage, but those seconds contain what investigators believe to be the last known visual contact with whoever took Jennifer Kesse or was involved in her disappearance. That figure has never been identified. Not then, not now, not in nearly 20 years. Their face, obscured by what appears to be a fence railing or privacy slat, has never been clearly seen. They walked away from Jennifer's car in January of 2006, and as of today, they are still walking free. The investigation into Jennifer Kesse's disappearance launched quickly and with urgency. Orlando Police Department detectives began working the case immediately after she was reported missing. They canvassed Jennifer's neighborhood. They talked to her neighbors. They talked to her coworkers. They talked to Rob Allen, who cooperated fully with investigators and was cleared. They looked for witnesses. They looked for patterns. They looked for anyone who might have noticed something unusual at the Conroy Road condominiums in the early morning hours of January 24th. They found very little. One of the most striking and frustrating aspects of this case is how invisible Jennifer's disappearance was, at least in those critical first hours. No one heard a struggle. No one heard screaming. No one called 911 to report anything suspicious that morning. In a residential neighborhood, in a complex with multiple units, where people were waking up and getting ready for work and going about their ordinary Tuesday, no one saw anything. Or if they did, they didn't know what they were seeing. Investigators turned their attention to the security footage. That grainy clip from the neighboring complex became one of the most scrutinized pieces of video in the history of Florida missing persons cases. Forensic analysts studied the footage frame by frame. They looked at the figure's gait, their approximate height, their build. They looked at what the person was wearing. What they found was deeply limited. The footage was simply too poor in quality to provide definitive, identifying information. But something was notable. The way the person walked, the ease of their movements. They did not appear panicked. They did not appear rushed in the way someone fleeing a crime scene might appear. They looked like someone doing an ordinary thing, which is somehow more terrifying. Over the weeks and months that followed, the Kesse family and Orlando police pursued hundreds of leads. Tips flooded in from across the country after Jennifer's story was featured on national news broadcasts and true crime programs. Drew and Joyce Kesse did not sit at home and grieve quietly. They went to work. They created a website. They held press conferences. They pushed, constantly, relentlessly, to keep Jennifer's name in the public conversation. They hired private investigators. They offered rewards. They showed up at legislative hearings to advocate for better resources for families of missing adults. They were not going to let their daughter become a statistic, a cold case filed away and forgotten. They refused. And yet, lead after lead went nowhere. Person after person was looked at and cleared. The grainy figure on the security footage remained unidentified. Jennifer Kesse remained missing. When a person disappears, the question everyone asks is the obvious one. What happened? In Jennifer's case, that question has never been answered. But over the years, investigators, journalists, and the Kesse family themselves have examined several possible explanations. The first and most widely discussed theory centers on Jennifer's condo complex itself. In the months before her disappearance, the complex on Conroy Road had been undergoing construction. Workers from various crews had regular access to the property, the buildings, the parking areas, the surrounding grounds. Investigators looked hard at whether someone connected to that construction work might have encountered Jennifer and taken advantage of their access to her building and neighborhood. The theory is compelling in its geography. If someone who worked at the complex had been watching Jennifer, learning her routine, knowing when she left for work, knowing where she parked, they would have had both opportunity and a plausible reason to be in that parking lot without raising suspicion. The Orlando Police Department pursued this line of investigation extensively, but it too led to dead ends. A second theory is stranger and harder to explain, that this was a random, opportunistic crime, that the wrong person happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, not because they were targeted, but because they were simply there. This theory troubles people most because it means no amount of caution could have guaranteed Jennifer's safety. She did everything right. She lived carefully. She was aware. And if this was random, if she simply crossed paths with someone in her own parking lot, then the cruelty of it is almost beyond comprehension. What we do know is this: Jennifer Kesse was taken. Someone was responsible. And for nearly 2 decades that someone has lived their life, has gotten up every morning, has eaten meals, and had conversations, and gone to sleep at night, while Jennifer's family has lived with the unbearable absence of her. That asymmetry, the person who did this living freely while the Kesse family waits, is the wound at the center of this case, and it has not healed. If there is something that stands apart in the story of Jennifer Kesse, something that elevates it beyond tragedy into something that almost looks like testimony, it is her family. Drew and Joyce Kesse have not stopped. In nearly 20 years, They have not allowed this case to grow quiet. They have not retreated. They have not moved on, because they do not believe in moving on when your daughter is still out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. In the years since Jennifer's disappearance, the Kesse family has worked tirelessly on multiple fronts. They advocated for changes to Florida's missing persons laws, pushing for legislation that would improve how law enforcement responds to adult missing persons cases that often receive less urgency than those involving children. They have maintained a website, findjennifer.com, where they have continued to share information, updates, and appeals for public help. They have worked with private investigators, forensic experts, and cold case specialists. They have welcomed renewed attention whenever the case has been featured on television programs or podcasts. They have remained, at every turn, present. Jennifer's brother Logan has been especially vocal in keeping his sister's name alive. He has spoken publicly, given interviews, and worked alongside his parents to ensure that Jennifer is not forgotten, that she remains, in the public consciousness, a real person, not a ghost, not a file, not a statistic, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a woman who is still missing and still deserves to be found. The Kesse family's fight has also been a broader one, a fight for the hundreds of thousands of adults who go missing in the United States every year and whose cases receive insufficient attention, resources, or urgency. Drew Kesse once said something that has stayed with many who heard it. He said that until you are a family who is living this, until you are the one calling the police and being told your missing adult is not a priority, you cannot understand how broken the system is. He is not wrong. Jennifer Joyce Kesse was 24 years old when she disappeared on January 24, 2006. She would be 44 years old today. She would have lived 2 more decades. She might have gotten married. She might have had children. She might have bought a bigger house, climbed higher in her career, laughed at inside jokes with her brother over holiday dinners. All of that, all of it, was taken from her, and from her family. Somewhere out there, possibly in Florida, possibly not, the person or persons responsible for Jennifer's disappearance know the truth. They have always known. And somewhere out there, possibly someone watching this right now, there is a person who saw something in January 2006, who noticed something, who has carried a detail, a memory, a piece of information that they may not even know is significant. For families like the Kesses, cases like this are not closed because the answers don't exist. They are closed because the answers are still locked inside someone's silence. We are asking you to break that silence. If you have any information about the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse, please contact the Orlando Police Department's Cold Case Unit. Their tip line is open. They are still working this case. You can also visit findjennifer.com, the family's official website, where you can submit a tip, learn more about the case, and see the one piece of footage that may hold the key to everything. That grainy, haunting clip of a figure walking away from Jennifer's car. 19 years of walking free. One tip could end that. Jennifer Joyce Kesse was 24 years old. She was organized, driven, responsible. She called her parents every day. She is still missing. And her family, the people who loved her most in this world, have never stopped looking. The case remains unresolved, and the silence remains.